Hello everyone. It's 11:01. You had to wait 1 minute, August Lion. All right, another cold day here in Melbourne. Hopefully I won't need to adjust my ND filter too much because I've put a light in front of me to keep, the face, well kind of white balanced. And so the background might shift, but I won't turn orange and then blue and then orange and then blue as much as usual. Anyway, let me know if you guys can hear and see me properly, and I'll just pop out the chat. Remember, if any of you want to ask me a question, a sensible question that I might be able to answer, make sure you put a whole bunch of emojis if you're here on the live stream on the right, and end it with a question mark, and I'll do my best to answer it. Hi to the regulars: Donna, August, Smartline, Realistic, Delinquent, Arvero, David, and the rest. Jennifer. All right. Landis. Okie doke. All right. While you guys get some questions ready, if you got any, otherwise just feel free to listen to me blabbing. But as usual, I'll be discussing the videos of this last week, and there were some really nice comments, especially on the last one last night, about guys thinking they're paranoid that their relationship is hard work because that's the way all of them are. You talk to some people and you just start to scratch the surface of, oh, this isn't right, and they roll their eyes and they say, oh, tell me about it, that's normal. It's as though you're complaining about feeling sore after going to the gym, and people are laughing at you and saying, well, what do you expect? There's always soreness after the gym. But intuitively, I kind of knew it was wrong. I think everyone knows it's wrong. Why, if you enjoy spending time willingly with friends and people you want to be around, you don't have this? But we're told with relationships that it's putting on this mask, putting up with certain behavior. There's always friction, there's always compromise, there's always fighting, there's always pulling in different directions, and you kind of got to learn patience. And it's like having a kid that's not well behaved, and it's good for you to learn patience in this way. It's like, if I'm going to pick something, it's like saying, well, your house is burning down around you, and it's normal. Everyone's house is. You can learn to be. You can choose to be somewhere else. It's not hard. Like, why can't I choose to be somewhere else? And they'll say, well, yeah, you could, but what? Be on your own, or be with someone that resembles the comfort of being on your own, and not the opposite. Anyway. Yes, Realistic Delinquent says, human is reasonably punctual for a YouTuber. Thank you. I try and be. Hit the like button, everyone. Subscribe, join, whatever tier you want. Helps the channel out. YouTube likes you engaging with the channel. So whether you're hitting like or just adding a comment for the algorithm, like apple pie or custard pie, as Donna does, I think. Hey, Boffin, how are you? All right. Under the last video, I love you guys, the subs under my comments, because I've cultivated a whole bunch of really good subscribers in you guys, because not only do you police the spurgs that try and come on and fish, you don't give them any attention, which is great, and then they just go away. There's nothing for them here. But for the people that are genuine and they come onto the channel, really interested in these topics and trying to work their hurdles out, and trying not to make the same mistakes again, and going on to sort of a better life, not crossing their fingers and just recycling what they've already done and hoping, like, well, I hope the universe gives me a better shot this time. That we have more that we have more choice and more will to generate a different outcome. I know there's a lot out of our control. We don't have as much free will as we like to think. But also, the way a lot of the internet is, we have far more of an ability to change the outcome of our lives than we sort of submit to sort of, oh, no, there's nothing you can do. There is. There's usually a lot we can do. Given what we can't control, it's kind of sad that we give up everything. They're small victories, but they end up making big differences in your life. Anyway, there was a really good comment under the last video I did that I uploaded yesterday. You're not paranoid, your relationship sucks. It's trusting your gut instinct and your intuition. And the comment was by Literal Vampire Potbelly Goblin. It was a really, really good one, and I thought it deserved not just to be read out, but to sort of have it on screen so you guys can see it as well. He says, "People have told me all my life that relationships were very hard work, and they were a ton of work. I've always balked at this. Why should they be hard?" You usually get the response of, well, you're two different people. Living together creates challenges. You're going to have to learn to compromise. Okay, first of all, compromise isn't hard or a ton of work unless you're being asked to compromise your values. This is a big thing. If you're asked to compromise your values, that should be a no-go. That's a hard boundary. You know, this is, people think, oh, well, you got to be flexible. Not with who you are, not with what makes you sane and stable and what eases your anxieties and gives you a sense of right and wrong. He continues, if you want Chinese but she really wants Italian, then you compromise. Yeah, no big deal. Unless you're terminally immature, that isn't a big deal. But it becomes difficult when you want to spend a weekend fishing with your friends and she says, well, if you really love me, you'd stay here and help me clean up the kitchen. The same with people who tell you that relationships are a lot of work would tell you to compromise. But that's not what's happening. She isn't looking for compromise. She's looking for capitulation. She's manipulating you and trying to separate you from your friends. Do not tolerate this sort of behavior. Second of all, I had a roommate from the ages of 19 to 24. Same guy the whole time, all through college. Living together wasn't hard. It wasn't a ton of work. We respected each other and we did our best to make sure we didn't get on each other's nerves. He hated dishes in the sink. They didn't bother me. But I made sure to never leave my dishes in the sink unwashed because I knew I didn't like it, because I knew he didn't like it. I hated clothes on the floor and he couldn't care less, but he always kept the floor clean while we lived together. And we're still great friends to this day. If living with someone else is hard, then more likely than not, it's because they don't have any consideration for you. They think you should just change to fit their mold because all they care about is themselves. They don't put up with this kind of thing. Third and finally, if you don't enjoy spending time with someone, then you don't have a relationship. You have an unhealthy attachment to that person. They're not pleasant to be around, but you can't imagine not being there. I promise you will feel better if you recognize that this is not a real relationship, that all the people who say relationships are supposed to be hard are likely just coping the best way they can, and you would be better off alone than with this person. Tranquility, serenity, and integrity will always make you feel better than trying to live with a chronically unhappy, spoilt child in an adult's body. In the inimitable words of Paul Proteus, a lot of women say, well, you can't handle me. What kind of motherfucker wants to be in a relationship with someone he has to handle? That was a really good comment. Literal Vampire Potbelly Goblin. That was really good. And I love the way you finished it off with Paul Proteus's comment. It still annoys me whenever I hear his name that I never got to have a conversation with him. For me, he was the best channel that was trying to help guys on the internet. He was really good. He was funny. He was entertaining. He lived life. He took a lot of risks. He was a genuine guy from everything I've read, seen, and from people who knew him personally thus far. He was a great guy. So rest in peace, buddy. So, what did you guys think of that comment? I thought it was really good. I actually asked people in my members section. I asked them, you know, it's funny, over the years I've learned a lot about social dynamics, relationships, men and women, biology, etc. But sometimes I catch myself asking simple questions like, am I happy, or what am I doing? It's almost like we hide in this intellectual stuff sometimes, trying to figure out puzzles. Is the simplest answer usually the right one? And predictably, yes. I knew this would probably be the outcome. It's not always the case. There are exceptions. Patience lets you see that the initial impulse wasn't the right answer or wasn't the right read of the situation. But most of the time, your gut will tell you that it was. And with this question, my members left some comments underneath. And let's see. David said, we hide in the intellectual stuff because people don't want to know about the deep. We hide the intellectual stuff because people don't want to know about the deeper things. They want happy, cute, superficial because it doesn't require thought. It's all about feelings. Put up a video about puppies or kittens and many people flock to it. Put up a video about intellectual topics and watch the views plummet. Yeah, I know what you mean. This is the thing. The simplest answer is always the right one. Yes, I believe so. Yeah, me too. I've noticed that the more you try and help people seriously, without sort of scamming people, when you're trying to be friendly, when we're trying to work together, when we're trying to think for ourselves and not need the system, not need others, but cooperate with others, but be sort of a stronger person ourselves, it's harder to put videos on content like mine, because people that watch videos like mine, people who are trying to be responsible and adults, they only need one pair of shoes or a pair of pants, one car. They don't need multiple things. They're not consumerists. They're very rational. They're minimalists. They're still like, okay, I've got a car, I've got a pair of shoes, I've got one of these, one of these. I don't need to keep clicking on the banners to keep buying and buying and buying. So it makes sense from their point of view, the way the system's set up. But yeah, stuff that anesthetizes you, entertains you, or makes you buy a lot of stuff. But the stuff that makes you self-sufficient and a mature person doesn't. Neil says Occam's razor. Yeah, I was thinking of this, but Occam's razor is fairly obscure for people who haven't sort of looked into theory. Occam's razor states that yes, the simplest answer is often the right answer. Men need answers, therefore we intellectually analyze everything until we find the answer, then we accept it. You must never cease from searching, but when you have, you will find yourself back at the place from whence you started, and you will know it for the first time. T.S. Eliot. Yeah. Look, logically, yeah, I advocate passing everything through your prefrontal cortex, and that's kind of the filter that balances whether or not you're not your first impulse, but then patience and considering things, trying to objectively assess the situation, and then passing it through the balance of everything through the front of your brain. But yeah, a lot of times we don't make decisions. We feel like we want to do something, we have a bias, and we spend the rest of the time justifying our bias, not really thinking. So that's very interesting about the human condition. XXXXZ said, we hide in the intellectual stuff because if we were to dive deep within the emotion we have or want, it'd be a bad result. Every one of us as humans, pun intended, wants to feel, wants to know that we can trust and rely on someone else, and it's usually one specific person. Yeah, and I think this is where a lot of guys misplace where they want to put their trust. They want to put it in a safe group because really the group's not going to touch you. But at the same time, the bad thing is that you can't rely on the group. You can't touch the group. You can't hug the group. The group's not going to help you move your couch. The group's not going to help you give you a lift somewhere or help you out in real life. So they won't hurt you, but they won't help you. But at least the group, the system, or focusing on the external so much, they're not going to sort of pile on you in the way someone or something in real life does. He continues, we hide in the intellectual stuff because it makes sense. 2 + 2 = 4. It makes sense, but when it comes to relationships, the variables change every millisecond, and that is bad. One thing my last relationship taught me is that people, women mostly, want a constant until it no longer serves their happiness. That's not fair at all. But in today's world, it has to be acceptable by society. It has to be acceptable by society standards. If a man leaves a woman, society is like the woman can find better. But if a woman leaves the man, it's like it was probably his fault. It doesn't add up. Yeah, this is where the 2 + 2 equals 4 for women, but not for men. He continues, where is the intellect in relationships nowadays? ? Yeah, this is men's confusion. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, women in society are kind of looking at men going, oh, you idiots. Of course 2 + 2 = 4 in our world. Why can't you see it? It makes sense why men go their own way, but it really shouldn't be that way. Yeah, I agree. What did I write? I think. Yeah. Feral Android said, there hasn't been enough times in my life that the simple answer was the right one to trust it implicitly. The simple answer may be the right one, but I won't know unless I've intellectualized it. Yes, this is what I was saying before. Your gut is usually right or telling you what is best for you, but sometimes if you've done the lazy thing or the avoidant thing, your gut, your fear is masking as your gut, keeping you safe. So you've got to be very, very kind of observant about that. So pass it through your prefrontal, pass it through, how you feel, your gut instinct, the data, what people say, sift it through, and then finally pass it through your empirical experience, your life experience, what's the word? I can't think of it. I need more coffee. Anyway, yeah, your experience, to repeat the word a millionth time. Vero says, the first answer is usually the right one. The rest is simply revising and questioning your decision. Yes, I think I touched on it before. I agree with you 100%, Vero. We're justifying our biases. We want to do what our impulses want, and we're just revisiting the decision and trying to find a crack. Well, we will find a crack. Nothing's perfect. Every decision's not going to be airtight. There's going to be a crack, but your fear and your kind of impulse, if it's more safety focused, it's going to look for, yeah, but what if? Or this could happen. As I mentioned last stream and the streams before, there's something to be said about how everyone talks. Let's go back to, am I overblown? I thought I wasn't going to be, but I am. There's something to be said about taking this stuff seriously and learning from other people's mistakes, especially bad ones where the outcome is almost certainly going to go against you. You're going to fail, even if you do things the best way possible. That's sensible. Avoid that and do everything to sort of not go down direction, unless you can find a hack where your chances go up realistically, not just because you want them to go up, but because they realistically will. Because I'm always saying, like, people will say, look, the divorce rate is up nearly 60%. And I'm talking about these guys who want families and marriage and all this kind of the whole 9 yards of the traditional past. If you just look at the stats, you also need to look at what most people are like. If most women are a certain way out there, if Kim Kardashian is their model, They're not responsible. They don't act like ladies. Men are acting like children. A lot of men are fearful. Men are just kind of doing what women want, and the way men and women are acting, it makes sense. Like, and if you look at the stats, sure, but do you want to act like them? So if you don't like that, act like them, those stats don't really apply to you realistically. And I'm not saying the stats mean nothing. They realistically describe what's going on out there. But if you really don't get along with most people, you don't have many friends, because most normies out there, most pedestrians, you can't stand their choices. You can't stand what movies they consider the best thing since sliced bread. You retch whenever you watch them. I just watched the new Obi-Wan yesterday. Piece of trash. Didn't like it at all. The whole series was about that sort of that chick in it, the bad one, the pigmented one. I probably can't even say the word. That's why I'm trying to disguise it. But it wasn't about him. It was like a pathetic story. Like he was just a bumbling fool. And again, every chick in the movie was a strong female character. So if we don't like the average person out there, we don't like the political correctness out there, we don't like what everyone's saying, what makes you think that those statistics should apply to you if you do so many things, especially socially, very, very differently, and you insist on doing them differently? Those stats don't apply to you as much. They do apply to you when you're blindly meeting someone for the first time. Have your guard up. Those statistics do apply to you, and that's why you should be very discerning and have your boundaries, and you don't let people in too quickly, and you take a hell of a lot of time for your own safety. But you should be able to trust your judgment. What a lot of this stuff that we distance ourselves from real life, what it does is demoralizes you. You don't trust yourself anymore. So it's easy just to be online and just trust the data, just trust what everyone says, just trust the airtight safety of not really touching life, not really going for things that require a little bit of courage, but they're not reckless. They're not like jumping out of a plane without a parachute. So, yeah, I think this stuff needs to be repeated, because you hear it once, the light bulb goes off, but if you don't train it, if you're not having these conversations over and over again, it's like going to the gym. You can't go and have a really great workout on bench press, feel great, and never do it again, and say, well, I did it 5 years ago, and look, I don't see any benefits. The benefit is through repetition until it becomes a reflex. Until this stuff becomes a reflex, well and truly becomes a reflex, it needs to be repeated, not just as kind of like a blind Tony Robbins thing that you don't trust, but you have to drum it into your head, otherwise you forget it. But the best way is through conversation, not just reading it. But I've learned that the more you say it, you hear yourself say it, from absorption to brain to mouth, that loop really sort of penetrates some sort of permanency, right? So I think that's the best way. Surround yourself with better people, have better conversations, start a YouTube channel, man. Start a podcast so you can start talking about this stuff and hear yourself speaking it. LJ Thompson says, how would you feel if the girl you've been with for 2 years and had a kid with, if you caught her in a lie and she was messaging multiple guys, calling them cute, sending pics and heart emojis? I wouldn't feel good at all. And I think you know what's going on there and what kind of relationship you're in and what kind of person she potentially or probably is. I feel for you, man, and especially because you've got a kid with her. When a kid's involved, it's a lot harder, because you can't just sort of do the hard and right thing. I mean, it's hard enough with guys when it's just the girl. And let me turn down this. When it's just the girl, and it's hard enough breaking away from that. When it's a kid, multiply it 100 times, because you're breaking up someone who's innocent. Before that, we kind of imbue a lot of innocence on Chicky Poo that we're with. and we find it hard. It's like, oh, she's a girl, she's cute, she's going to feel bad, she's crying, blah, blah, blah. When there's a kid, those feelings are actually justified. All that sympathy you had for her and not being able to break up from the situation, they're justified with a kid because the kid's, relatively innocent. It's not their fault. You're responsible for bringing the kid into the world, or she is, when you hear a lot of the stories. But yeah, I feel for you, LJ, but I think you know what the right and wrong thing is. I think you just need to make the best of the situation and think of the kid first, while at the same time balancing your own needs and not living in hell. Remember, hit the like button, guys. Subscribe, join, and if you want to ask a question, if you want to make it stand out, put a whole bunch of emojis, or if you want to make it stand out, join, and you'll get a little icon next to your name, and I'll be able to see your question, or super chat. Adam Super AC said, damn good comment. Yeah, I agree. That was a really good one. Okay. August Lyon says, Occam's razor is about drawing a conclusion based on the fewest amount of assumptions. Yeah, okay, yeah, I think, yeah, you're right there. Look, you can summarize it in that way, but it's not accurate. Look, people usually summarize it in the way that the simplest answer is often the best, but you're right, August Lyon. It's about drawing a conclusion based on the fewest amount of assumptions. So not just assuming what could happen, but the realistic sort of options of what will happen, and then drawing the most realistic outcome out of those. Your simplest gut reaction usually is something we, as guys, usually ignore, because we look for, yeah, I'll ignore that. That's just a feeling. It doesn't make sense. I can't even see it. I can only feel it. I'll look for something tactile, like 1 + 1 = 2, something STEM-based. Donna says, let's hit the like button the way I hit the wall. There's a woman with a sense of humor. Pooping while standing says, if you look at the stats, at least the ones Aaron Clary provides in the Book of Numbers, why should a young man focus on anything other than himself? Again, if you're living more individualistically, like and by that I don't mean you just kind of live as a solipsist and you pretend that no one else exists and the outside world is just a figment of your generated imagination, right? I'm saying that, I keep saying, if we're really honest, we're not trying to date a cardboard cutout woman. Before you get to know them, they are. I agree. You need to take them as such. But if you're discerning and if you're concentrating in living in the now and listening to what someone's saying, having a real relatable conversation, they talk, you listen, they talk, and you're playing this dance in the moment where you appreciate and listening to each other, then you've got a better chance where the stats apply less to you. I'm not saying they won't. I'm saying you need to be realistically, aware of them. But if you go in there blindly, like a lot of very smart, intellectual people, university-minded kind of people, say, well, human beings are like this, and if we take a dry statistical measurement of people, without personality, without personal preference, blah, 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 just generally across the board, we look at the outcomes, and we're not being personal about this stuff, then here are the results. Yeah. But let's not forget that the reason you want to get into a relationship, the reason you want companionship, the reason you may want love or a family or whatever, it's very esoteric. It's very, very personal. Why you want Jane isn't why you want women, the average redheaded girl power chick out there, the average career woman. You don't try and make a career woman figure out that puzzle, so you pick any one of them and try and forge them into a wife. No. We need to recognize the personal, because that is the sole reason, the majority of the reason why you want a companion in a lover, right? And it's the same, like, we don't have this discussion about how do you find a friend. We intuitively know that you go about it trusting your instincts and what personal things click with you in a very natural and organic way. We don't try and find, the 12-step program as to how to find a friend or how to get along with the average. It's always like lovers, because we've politicized so much of it. Put it back to personal, and then it's very easy to ignore the sea of very superficially attractive women with nothing to say to you. They don't speak your language, and good. Stay on your own, be sensible, and if you come across someone that speaks your language, then see if it goes anywhere. But I get it that the Book of Numbers works for the intellectual STEM-based guy, but we also need to remember that I'm not having a mathematical discussion with my girlfriend. I'm enjoying chit-chat. I'm enjoying just hanging out with her. I'm enjoying someone with a good temperament, fairness, someone who will listen to me, someone who will accommodate me, someone who respects me. So all of this kind of dry number stuff, it's great before you meet someone and before you have the will and discernment to want to sort of see if an individual resides in this pretty miniskirt that you just want to go to bed with. It's easy. Like the first, I've said it before, 3 important things: physically attracted, mentally attracted, and third, you want the same things out of life. The first thing is very easy. Put on makeup, short skirt. Most guys will want most women out there, and women know that. Men are addicted to women who aren't kind of on the extremes of morbidly obese or loud and sort of obnoxious. And even a lot of those guys will go to bed with, because they equate that sort of fire in them with what the bedroom will probably be like. And it's not always the case. Usually it's not. There's just a lot of hot air. Or you got the other extremes where they're kind of mentally unhealthy, they're anorexic or whatever. But like there's a broad range in the middle of that bell curve that men will pick most of them. And also because it's very hard for men to find women. Women hold the key to the yes in acceptance of a relationship. Men can ask. So there's a lot of desperation that sort of men sort of have on their shoulders. I'm not saying all, and I'm not boo-hooing men, but we need to willfully sever all that and think of, if I'm going to be happy and not waste years and years of my life with the wrong kind of people, romantically or platonically, then I have to accept losses, and that aren't real losses. They're a good riddance to a waste of my life. Okay. Any questions? It's just Austin says, thoughts on how to not get feelings for your friend with benefits. I don't think you can. See, this stuff, we need to accept feelings. You can't go into it like a robot and just do it physically. And then when feelings... Ooh, I better turn my phone on silent. Getting a lot of spam on our phones, and have you noticed these days? Thoughts on not getting feelings for your friends in friends with benefits. See, this is the thing. We're trying to safely, robotically, from a distance, trying to connect with human beings, but being with people, it's all about feelings and being honest and being yourself and being vulnerable and having a laugh and letting the armor down. I noticed it in the past when I did have friends with benefits. They were fun for the period of time simply because you go into them not wanting a relationship and not caring. And then because you haven't got the armor on, all of a sudden, both of you are not putting on the mask. And that showed me that's exactly how I should approach all my relationships, whether it's friends with benefits, serious ones, friendships. That is why you start developing feelings, because you don't have the guard up. So I don't think you can, it just comes naturally, which should sort of teach you a lesson that these things are all about feelings. Oh, the sun's coming up. These things are all about feelings, and you can't game nature. Smart Guy says, life is too short to be in a relationship with a competitive career woman. It's like having two jobs, one at work and one at home. I agree. I've had these kind of relationships where you come at home and you don't look forward to it. You don't. It's low level or mid to high level anxiety, depending on if you've just been through something or you haven't had an argument, things aren't going well. Yeah. Does your relationship feel like two jobs? Does your relationship feel like having two jobs? And why does staying at your main job that's empty, why does it feel better being there? Because you're not accosted like you are by your romantic partner, the person that, you know, supposedly loves you. I've said this before. Ask yourself honestly, why do you love your partner if you've got someone? Can you answer it? And can you answer, what is love to you? What does it mean? Really short, like don't sort of meander. Try and kind of write it down and come up with like a sentence, like something to focus on. And then why that helps you. I love the poetry of condensing things to really sharp quotes, really sharp words, because they're easy to remember and remind yourself of. You can't remind yourself of a whole paragraph or a book you've read. Really isolate those sentences that sort of spear you in the heart. And Kratos70 says, I've dated educated women and a few were like talking to a brick wall on an intellectual level. People kind of get very dogmatic. They burrow themselves into the safety of their own sort of religion, whatever they've made for themselves, and it's very hard to get through. Again, it's even less chance you're going to be compatible with someone who's really diametrically opposed. Look, I've got my own beliefs and ethics, and I'm pretty secure in them, but I've got a loose grip where if someone talks sensibly to me, I'm happy to have a more live and let live balanced conversation with them. Am I? That's why. Let's do this, shall we? Let's not have a auto ISO. Yeah, that's better. I had it on automatic ISO instead of, now I've got it on 650. And that'll mean nothing to those of you who aren't gear nerds. Lifacia says, Human, on the note about friends with benefits, what do you think about the idea that friends with benefits can potentially be more successful because the two have to communicate much better? Look, as I said, I can see why a lot of times friends with benefits feel a lot better than trying to forge a meaningful, serious relationship in a very artificial way, because at least you haven't got the armor on and you discover you're compatible naturally. As I said, that should teach you. That's how you should approach that. That's the kind of fearlessness and the I don't need your validation approach you should approach all dates with. As in, my approach was like, I was looking forward to meeting a potential friend. I I kind of severed that she's the one. I never thought that way, and I really pushed that away because I knew it would work against me. What works for me is the very normal, hey, this is friendly. This is going to be friendly. I hope this person is friendly. That's it. And you almost take sex off the table. So I know it's hard to do, especially if you see her and she looks good, but you have to not give her a position before she's earned it. You go there being civil and friendly and hope that she can be at base, have that, first level taken care of, like, oh, okay, she's a decent person. And then you can start seeing objective things like values and how she was raised or wasn't. Pooping While Standing says, when you found a good woman, it's sad how much her own mother can destroy good relationships or her friends can influence because of crab bucket mentality. Yeah. In the past, one of the best relationships I had, her mother ruined most of it then. So, and she wanted kids. It wasn't just her mother, but I saw how much her mother could influence her. She basically couldn't say no to her mother. And her mother was nuts. Her family barely had any friends because of her mother. Mercedes Cherokee says, in your last video, you mentioned that traditional men should still get married despite the horrible court biases. Why can't people just omit the government contract? They can try. I'm not saying they shouldn't try, but it's been shown that sort of the contract, I think men have a better time of abiding by the verbal contract than women do, because women change their mind so much in general. Yes, I know not all women, but if you let me finish, and if you've listened to some of my videos with guys, we find it hard to sleep at night if we break a promise we've made to a buddy. If we've said we're going to do this and we don't, it weighs on us. Not so with women. Holy matrimony was more that, you shame a woman publicly. That, no, you can't get away with saying, I don't remember saying that. No, you had a ceremony in front of God in church, in front of everybody. And the vows were like, do you promise to blah, blah, blah. So it's more of a ceremony for a woman to keep her word. Yes, it's for a man too. But women don't feel any guilt, and they have convenient goldfish memory with kind of saying, well, I didn't break my promise. I changed my mind. And it's perfectly okay for a woman to change her mind. It's her prerogative to change her mind, as the saying goes. So I think in that sense, because we know it works out better for the kids to have a stable two-parent household, I would say that a guy who probably wants a traditional life probably also, let's be honest, probably also wants to be married to solidify that. And I was saying that the best way to go about, like, if you want to have kids, is to go about it the best way, like not try and risk your future life with whatever maybe could happen, because like no contract, like contract doesn't matter as much to guys, but a contract for women may kind of, depending on her personality, and again, she might be the best person you found in 20 years. And it's like, yeah, there's like part of me that, are you worried that she's going to leave you because of how much you've been hurt? Or are you worried that there's a small chance it may happen, because anything's possible? She might leave you. You don't know either way, and you can't tell for sure. You can't tell the future. Look, I'm not saying people need to get married. I'm saying make the right decision. If you don't need a marriage contract, don't do it. If you feel like you want to get married, get married. If you feel like you want to have kids, and what in your mind, given your upbringing, given your empirical experience and what your values are, what do you want to do, and what's the best way to go about it? That's what I advocate. I don't want guys to sort of be cookie cutters and really go against what they don't want to do. Take your time, hold yourself back until it's the right time, and you, with you know, all your heart and your own decision, want to do what you want to do with your eyes open. Elusive Man says, a lot of men would stop by the pub before going home to deal with the love of their life. Yeah. It's funny when you talk to sort of, you can tell these guys that sort of are tired and complaining, and it's like they'll talk about how tired they are of, you know, their family and their wife and this complaining, but then at the end they add this sentence of like, yeah, but it's all good, man, you know, I couldn't, you know, I wouldn't go back. It's like there was like a novel of complaining, and the last sentence of that novel was, well, it was all worth it. It's like, you're not selling it to me. But look, I've met a lot of people, married or not married, that have been with their partner for a long time, and they've got kids or not got kids, and you can genuinely see that they're happy. And that's what I said in the last video. Ask these people, try and talk to them. Don't just talk to the train wrecks. This is the funny thing. People say it's true because I'm talking to people who have had train wrecks, and the people themselves are train wrecks. You look at their personalities, you can't talk to them. They wouldn't be your friends. You can't have a decent conversation with them. They're not very reflective. They're not very responsible. And just because there's a sea of them out there, why are you directing your life towards them, where you want to be more like these reflective couples that have a deeper understanding, that sort of know why they're together? Like, I know I have better conversations with them. Why wouldn't I learn something or two from them? Maybe it doesn't apply to me, but it's better than listening to the cookie cutter fear-based answer of that kind of nihilistic script out there that I know doesn't apply to me. And the more I try and give it a shot, I just regret listening to their advice out there. All these nihilists, all these black and white, relationships are terrible, being on your own is bliss. It's like, it's not. Like, there's a lot of great things about being on your own if you've got that temperament, if you're an introvert as opposed to an extrovert. Like, how much fun did the extroverts have during these last couple of years where we were all isolated? Yeah, I don't think you had much fun. A lot of people would sort of beat their chests and tell you how they don't need anyone, just like the feminists do. But you don't believe them. I don't believe some of the guys that do the same thing and shout like the feminists, like, we don't need women. I'm really happy, 20 exclamation marks on my own. How long have we been going? 40, nearly an hour. Okay. Any last questions, guys? I might actually go to some of the more thoughtful comments, the really good ones from the last couple of videos. Shall I? Let's shall. All right. Actually, let's enlarge the font size a bit. All right. Neil says about my last video, you're not paranoid, your relationship sucks. The love is hard is a feminist myth designed to get men to put up with being treated like shit. Love is not hard. It's if the two people are compatible. Love is not hard if the two people are compatible. If love is hard, it's because they are not compatible. Life is like a beautiful cake. It tastes amazing on its own. A relationship is like icing. It can make the cake even better, or it can ruin the cake. The cake doesn't need the icing, just like life doesn't need a relationship. Life is beautiful on its own. The icing can make the cake even better, but just like a great relationship can make life even better. But either way, the cake is still beautiful. Yeah. People it's like the baby with the bathwater kind of analogy. We throw away the whole cake because we smeared on this icing just to have icing, or because people told you it was good. But you didn't kind of dip your finger, and by dip your finger, you perverts, I mean dip your finger in conversation and really observing if this person is for you before you smear it on your cake. You ruin your cake and then you blame the icing. It's like these fat people who, blame McDonald's for being obese. Majority Blood Nuke says, I separated from my wife 5 years ago. I am a lot less lonely now than I am alone. Friends have asked if I am happy. I always respond, I'm a lot less lonely now than I am alone, and that is perfectly true. Ellie says, compatibility is a matter of personality, and that develops during childhood. That's interesting, and that is very true. Much of our core personality is solidified and doesn't change past the age of 7 or 8. Your temperament, what you fear, your nervousness as opposed to sort of security, your anxiety levels, things like that. Like a lot of your core personality is set around the age of 7. So again, and it's not just what you went through, how you were treated by your parents. That also goes on top of it. But that's very true. And it would behoove all of us to pay attention to the personality of people. Not so much, and this is, I want to say this to many of us, and this is a good thing to remind myself, is I'm not just telling you what to do. Look for personality, look for personality. Don't excuse it. Because she went through this and this, I need to excuse it because I feel sorry for her. No, pity is not love. Recognize, understand why you are the way you are because of your childhood. Understand and listen to them, like why they were the way they are. But you don't excuse it if it's not compatible. If you're going to have to carry this boulder of what she went through, you weren't born to carry boulders uphill for someone because you got sympathy. Love is not sympathy. Love is respect and compatibility. Someone who considers you, someone who has some sympathy for you. Vero says, about a poll that I did last week. Did you tolerate bad relationships and did you leave? Did you stick around? Vero says, I know how to fix things. I read, I study them, I tackle and resolve the problem. You think after many decades of relationships, I could fix one? Nope. It's like going to a picnic. You have 50% chance of being rained out, 50% chance there will be yelling kids, 50% chances it'll be infested with mosquitoes. Should I continue? Yeah, there's a lot out of our control. But if we relinquish all control, if we just say yes to everything and just do whatever we do without cognition, then the chances that things won't work out in our favors are exponentially high. Then your life is the stats. Your life is the stats because you don't put your hands or your mind on anything. But given that there's a 50-50 chance that it won't go your way, it might not be 50-50, depending on what the thing is. But if you don't care, yeah, your life is the stats. If you do care, your life is less the stats. Adam Super AC says, well, if you're hitting your head against a brick wall, it's good when you stop. Exactly. Yeah, I agree. It's good when you start thinking and take responsibility is what I read from that. Daniel J says, bravo, like everything else in life, relationships are choice about which Hamlet's conclusion applies. Thus does conscious make cowards of all of us. It is fear in a man's case. A little boy's fear of running away that stops at the door. Yeah, a little boy that fears running away from his parents or his mum that stops at the door. How many of us could run away from home? How many of us had the balls to do that? I'd say virtually zero today. Virtually none. Going through that door is not seppuku. Seppuku being the Japanese term for that the samurai are well known for. Indeed, in the words of a wonderful blues refrain, I'd rather drink muddy water, sleep in a hollow log than stay in Georgia, treated like a dirty dog. Yes. Or to sort of belabor the point with yet another cheesy quote, it's better to live on your feet than die on your feet than live on your knees. And a lot of times you're not dying on your feet, you live. People sort of become over theatrical about things. Cynical Optimist says, I recently ended a relationship and I can say that there are There are core values that you and your spouse must both share in common for the relationship to grow and be healthy. For example, I value being punctual, financially stable, and engage in deep intellectual philosophical conversations as a pastime, none of which my spouse understood the importance of because she had been spoiled all her life. She would never be on time for anything, spend money she couldn't afford to spend, and always deterred intellectual or philosophical conversation, despite priding herself on her secondary education, as if that was the hallmark of her supposed superior intelligence and interpersonal skills. It took me a while to accept that this woman was codependent on her father, neurotic, egotistical, and a closet misanthropist. Eesh, that last one, that says a lot. I advise any man that values his peace, order, and integrity to avoid women that feel entitled to use you as their unresolved emotional pincushion and a financial wellspring. That was really well said, Cynical Optimist. That was a great comment. I've got to go back and pin that one in the comment section if I already haven't. Reddy Giovanni said, you literally get addicted to the other person. This is interesting. Even when the relationship is unhealthy. Yeah. Like say you got addicted to the person during the honeymoon phase. You're in love is you're addicted. If you look at it like that analogy. So he continues, if a relationship is unhealthy for you, cut it off. You will go through withdrawal symptoms, but every day away gets easier. You'll get over it and be strong from the experience. Yeah. Once we're in love, we're addicted, and we are like somebody in AA, unfortunately. But we all know what the right thing to do is go through the 12-step program. It's going to be hard. Don't, paint it in sort of like Oprah style feel good, like it's going to be great. You're going to be eating a shit sandwich. But if it's the right thing to do, afterwards, you don't have to eat that anymore. Otherwise, you're just going to be eating little pieces of it instead of finishing it in one sitting. Visan says, I think that lack of compatibility is mostly because girls don't know how to be friends. I think don't know how to be friends. They get offended by everything, so they make you feel like you're walking on eggshells. I wonder if they realize this. You cannot even have a conversation with them about this very subject because they, again, get offended. Yeah, women don't know how to be friends. They're walking on eggshells. They're manipulating each other because they tear each other apart. And so when they get to us later, here's a guy. They've been conditioned in relationships by other women growing up in the schoolyard, their friends, the game playing, the backstabbing. Which is why women, one of the things they say to men all the time is like, I want a man who is honorable, who doesn't play games, who doesn't lie. Because that's what they've been used to with women. You notice that what they want out of relationships is usually what they're not used to and usually what they've been conditioned with. But just because they don't want it, and it's a good instinct, they don't want that anymore. They're tired of the schoolyard with other girls. But also, keep her at a distance initially and see if actually she just doesn't just want you to provide it all. And she doesn't know how to provide fairness, honesty, openness, non-game playing, which is a big one. A lot of the women who don't want games, they don't know how not to play games. They require you to not be the mental abusers that all the females in the schoolyard were to them. They require you not to be the mental bully of all the other women in their lives, their friends, their broken friendships. But they have no interest and they don't have the skills or will to do it themselves. It's a lot like a lot of these women. They know they want to lose weight or look healthy or do things in their life. They know what the right thing to do is, but some of them don't have the skills. They don't have the self-reflectiveness to kind of do the tough thing and like, be disciplined to get what they want. They want you to carry the whole load. Like you have to do all of what they think is right, which is not fair. Each person has enough of a load of trying to self-improve without having to self-improve the other person or hold the burden of the other person. Iron Yuppie says, I've been struggling on my own for a little while now. Most of my close friends are no longer available like they used to be. I've taken up a hobby that I go to a few nights a week so I get some social time whilst learning the skill. I have some hobbies at home as well. I attend every social event I get invited to. I'm trying to go into a new profession at the moment. I generally try to put myself out there as much as I can. I still feel awful a lot of the time. However, despite all this, I'll take my current situation over being in a relationship with some of the women from my past. Amen. A lot of the women I see in everyday life. Yes. There's because of loneliness and like it's the longer you've been on the wrong path, it takes probably just as long to find the new path, because it's not even getting back to the right path. It's like finding a path you've never been on. It's like it's one thing that you were on the right path, you lost your way and you've got to come back. It's even worse when you've never even been on the right path, but you know intuitively, and there's too many examples of the right path there that you've just never been on. David P says, if you get past the honeymoon phase and you're still having fun, you're doing something right. Yeah, I agree. There's a lot more comments here. Let me see. Let me go back to the stream and see what you guys are saying. Remember, guys, if you want to ask a question, put a couple of bright, preferably yellow emojis in front of your question, because I'm reading these comments from the live stream on a black screen, a black background. Vero says love and loneliness are very similar. Yeah. If again, simple questions like, I'm just picturing me sitting with a guy who's, doesn't like his life, he's tired, not happy in his relationship, his marriage, or whatever it might be. And just you spear the person with a very simple question. It's like, do you think you love her? And then there's usually a pause. They'll think about it. If a person reacts like, oh, of course, like, what do you think? It's like saying, if you said, do you love your kid? It would be like this. But a lot of these people who are not in happy relationships and they don't talk, they're not compatible, and they've just kind of stayed there past the honeymoon, and they think like they value having a relationship and having someone there set over facing that they need to let someone, like they caught a fish, but it's not their fish and they have to throw it back. And they've been fishing for a long time and it's hard enough to get a bite. It's like having a fish is better than not having a fish at all. That's logic, but that kind of logic, it doesn't work in relationships, because with relationships, it's really about quality, not quantity. Just because you've got the quantity and you're starving, you're not going to die. You're better off throwing back that known quantity of a fish. Yeah, you can eat that fish, but you're going to be sick eating it for the rest of your life. And it's a hard one, especially when you've been starving for a while. Prince Revolver says, do you think women ever get tired of SHIT testing men, especially a man who loves them? I don't know. A lot of women's nature, how they push and test men and stuff, I don't think it's conscious. I don't think I don't place that much chess playing intelligence in a woman. I think it's instinct. I think it's survival. She doesn't feel right. She feels kind of itchy, and she's got to scratch that itch to relieve, the anxiety. Like, I've had it before where a couple of women I was dating and in serious relationships with, over time, they didn't believe I was that calm of a person. Like, obviously I get stressed and whatever, but it takes a lot for me. I've got a long fuse. A lot doesn't bother me. I've got a good sense of stability in myself and my life. I don't like stress. And I've learned to face a lot that is uncomfortable because I really don't like stress and uncertainty. I have to deal with it so I don't have that stress and uncertainty in my life. And that overrides any uncomfortable feelings of, oh, I'd rather not do that. I'd rather not have that conversation. I'll go along with it. I can't. If I can't sleep at night, I have to address it. I have to face it. Yeah, so it's what you value more. What can you live with? And that's some of the clarifying stuff I'd like to talk about in videos like my last one. Filter it down to one very simple, sharp question that illuminates a lot. Can you live with it? Do you love her? You're not happy in this life with her or on your own in this job, in this routine, where you live. Why? Ask the simple, everyday, umbrella experience questions, and then what's under it. Like, we love looking at all the tentacles underneath it. It's kind of like we don't want to speak about the tree. We want to talk about all the roots underneath it and every little sort of, we want to be intelligent and go and say, like, look at, we're talking about all the root system of this tree, but no one wants to talk about the trunk. Anyway, guys, I'll read a couple more questions, then we'll wrap it up. So think of your questions, put a bunch of emojis or super chat them in the comments or hit the join button and I'll answer the last ones. Otherwise, I'll answer some more questions. Boffin, in regard to last week's live stream, is life better with her or without her? Same sort of variation on the question. Are you happy where you are? He said, I second your observation regarding a married or long-term relationship woman's discomfort. When her man hangs out with an unattached buddy, I've never encountered one that was overtly rude, but often their husband will comment later about their uneasiness with him hanging around with his single buddy. Yeah, the woman will say, what did you guys do? And what do you guys talk about? Are common queries from the women. Female insecurity has deep roots, and having their man hanging around with a single buddy seems to only amplify those nagging concerns that swirl about ceaselessly in their minds. Koi says, in terms of my video, should a woman obey her man? He says, I agree with your statement in question. I think that the Achilles heel in it is the reasonable part. That being, can two people come to an agreement on a mutual definition of reasonable, which will likely be close to a compromise, which means no one is happy. Yeah, as was mentioned in a previous comment, compromising between Chinese and Italian food is one thing, compromising between your values, no. He continues, however, assuming you are intimately knowledgeable of each other, then it shouldn't be necessary, as you may well know each other well enough to look out for one another's interests. But the simple answer is I don't know if I missed out your simple answer or that's the way you cleverly ended it. We don't know what the simple answer is. Elisa said, I don't understand everyone's aversion to the idea of obeying. Citing slavery in the time women were legally categorized as properly only makes sense to me if you've lived it. If you've seen it. But even then, it still doesn't make sense. No one cringes like this when you're told to obey your boss, even obey the TSA going through security. Yes, a lot of these women who won't obey their man at home happily obey their boss. Everyone obeyed and told other people to obey when the government told you to wear masks and not socialize for a year. Does the government care about you? Does the TSA love you? Is your boss committed to you? But you obey them, don't you? So why are you so averse to the idea of obeying as someone who cares about you, is committed, loves you? Why? Why should anyone apologize for saying you should obey your lover? How is this not a virtue? I agree with you, Lisa. I think it's a product of our modern sort of selfish culture that we're told, like, anyone with authority doesn't have a right to tell me what to do. But then when you look at it, your boss, the government, all this kind of stuff, like your parents at least have your best interests at heart. But like all these other things that people obey. But why don't you obey someone who loves and respects you? Like I said, I don't have a problem with it, but I can see how it seems demeaning. It's semantics. I've got a lisp with this plate. It really annoys me sometimes. Nadine says, your wife shouldn't have to submit to you to behave properly. She should be compelled by her deeply ingrained values to behave properly. If you can't find such a woman, it's better to remain single. I agree. Anius137, member question, he says, or she says, you missed one important dynamic that I personally experienced. A woman who feigns letting you lead so that she's not responsible for the decision that fails, and then she can rip you a new one whenever they do. Yeah. Again, be careful of the honeymoon period. Keep your eyes open. Take it slow. Don't trust what she says. Trust what you observe and look for contradictions. Because unfortunately, the only way to trust someone is to trust them. But the only time you should start trusting them, little bit by little bit, is after you felt the honeymoon period is well and truly over, where you really kind of believe that you've settled into commitment, the honeymoon period's finished. Then start sort of testing, not testing consciously, but start observing whether your trust is well deserved in this person. Are there contradictions? Carlos D said, "Human, I think the problem is that women want men to lead. When it's convenient to them. When it's not, they throw temper tantrums like kids. That's what really bothers me." Yeah, it bothers me too. Women want two things. Women want to get away with acting like kids, like little daughters, and there's too many men that want to treat them like their daughters. And that kind of dance that they both agree on is the cause of a lot of relationship dysfunction and stress. And that cuteness, that wanting to take care of someone, a lot of guys, it's really, really difficult to see a difference between taking care of someone in a pitying way like your daughter and protecting a child, or taking care of a woman that's sort of weaker than you, has less ability than you in a lot of strengths that you have. You can complement each other, but in a lot of the ways that you can lead and have authority, you're with an adult that you can lead with. So, but a lot of guys like, I've got complete control. I'm the alpha. She's in my frame. She's basically a walking, talking doll that does everything I say. And she basically mouths everything I think and mouth. Yeah, until someone else gives her another voice. Manel says, why should a wife obey when she makes the same amount of money than her husband? Yeah, today women usually respect men that they see above them in some way. And I'm not saying to belittle women like they're worthless, but it's like women like looking up to men. And it's not just physically. Women like a taller man. They like the protection. There's a lot of biological factors that go into this, and we need to be aware of it. And a lot of the career-minded girl power chicks need to get over being offended. Like, this is the cause of a lot of their stress. They want two opposing things. They want a strong man. They want a man who leads, but the women never let him lead because of their fears and their insecurities and their Bible of girl power, and not to let a man in. They want to feel safe, but they want a drama-filled relationship that's very unpredictable. How are you supposed to get consistent safety when you're starting from zero every day? So, yeah, women aren't made to lead because their natural reactions and impulses don't. Whereas men like consistency, men like stability. You don't have to. Men aren't fighting against it. There are guys who like adventure, but they're not irrationally reckless about it. You know, some are, but the majority I'm talking about, men and women. Tyler asks a good question. Quick question. What is more important in a relationship, loyalty or love? Good question. Again, it depends on how you see love. If it's modern love, loyalty. But a lot of how antiquated love used to be seen, there was a lot more logical foundations. What love used to be defined as would include loyalty. You couldn't have love without loyalty. So my instinct would be love, because what I see as love has loyalty as one of its foundations. But what modern love is just you feel good in the moment, and the moment it doesn't start, it's not feeling good, then there's no more love. It evaporates. Whereas a value-based love of the past, love for me is a skill, and skills often have objective things you can point to. You know why you're good at something. You know why you should know why you love something. You should know why you do the things you do, who you are, what your values are, what your ethics, what your principles are, what your boundaries are. If it's all, well, whatever, then whatever will happen to you. Red envelope says, this was relating to a previous live stream. He said, there are 4 missing words from the marriage vows. Do you love me? Yeah, they don't say that, do they? Especially what we talked about, what love used to encompass. See, I think love used to mean all of these things in the past, but now love is on its own and we've gotten rid of the values. So conveniently now, all of the dumpster fire hides behind the window dressing of love. Love is the screensaver behind hell today. It's the way to get you to sign on the dotted line. It's the way to get you to buy the car. You've bought the car and then it doesn't run. Whereas before, you would buy the car only after you, test drove it, popped the bonnet, got the guarantee, all that kind of stuff. I guess it's not asked because women are incapable of loving a man for who he is. Promises mean absolutely zilch to women who can just change their mind unilaterally and wreck your life with the help of her hypergamy and full support of the government, applauded as a hero or a heroine by the gynocentric society and enforced by the courts. Yep. All of this, like I said, most women out there, if you threw a rubber duck at one, it would quack, because most of them are like that. But the only way, if you want to deal with women, or as Paul Proteus said, if you want to fuck with women, is to do your best to be present in the conversation and to really judge the person you're with in conversation. Not to let things slide because she's pretty. You keep smiling when a little red warning sort of flag pops up in your head. You notice it. And then you clarify it in conversation right away. Be friendly, be open, have a good time. But you don't have to go on a second date. And there's enough dysfunctional people thinking that men and women are just biological entities and we don't have to imbue any of them with personal values. But then there's no point talking about love, which a lot of people don't today conveniently when they laugh at me and say, LOL, human. Love, you're living in the past, you boomers, or Gen Xers in my case. Fine. But I've had a lot more success in my life in terms of having happiness, where I refuse just to be led along by that script out there, whether it's by the government, by women, by other men in the male self-help arena, saying that we're just male, tough guy cardboard cutouts, and we're supposed to go out there and get pretty female cardboard cutouts, and that's what life is about. Sorry, for me it's personal qualities, what fits me. I mean, the stuff I do you think this is cardboard cutout material? This is very esoteric. This is coming from me. I know what I'm interested in, what I love doing, the videos I present, the little quirky ways I artistically kind of imbue my videos with, the type of the look, the color, the audio quality, the kind of conversations I have, every single word, the things that come out of my mouth. Like, this is all made up of me. I'm not a cardboard cut. Like, I have a lot of foundational male traits. Yeah, I give you that. But The reason why anyone would be my friend, who would hang out with me, who I value, who I want to have a conversation with, who I want to love, especially the person that's a physical person in front of you that's going to be around you all the time. It's personal. All of this is personal. Everyone trying to make it impersonal and then looking for personal happiness within an impersonal framework. I just like, yeah, keep going. Maybe one day you'll get hurt bad enough that you'll try something else, like making it personal, making it rationally personal. Oh man, how many times do you have to do the same thing over and over again and deny your own humanity and personal, like, you know, I want guys to be happy, because I know I've been a lot happier when I made it personal and got over my own over-intellectualization of this stuff, because I do it a lot. Like, in case you haven't noticed with my lexicon and the kind of videos I make, I pride myself on intellectualism. I've got a big intellectual curiosity about this stuff, and I find everyday topics really interesting, and they're really essential to know. And I love talking about everyday stuff in a very serious and mature way, so it can be practically applied out there and it can make our lives better. But I had to learn to get over my kind of own intellectual ego and try a different tact, have a looser grip when it comes to people, and then I can hold on as tightly as I want with my overthinking brain when it comes to stuff like making my videos. Like, I can get as precise and fine-tuned the dials and make it as perfect, you know, as I want, and, you know, get the audio right, and everything has to be the way I think it is. But then again, I look back on videos where I thought it was perfect a year ago, and I think it sounds like or looks like trash compared to now. I think my videos look a lot better, but in a year from now, my videos. So that perfectionism, you need to, I need to remind myself to refrain from you guys thinking I'm telling you what to do, because I'm talking to myself a lot of times when I talk about this. These are my values about what I believe and how I try and conduct myself. I learnt to have a loose grip when it comes to people, and then give myself free rein to hold on as tightly and as to bend the world to my liking when it comes to stuff and my hobbies, because I'm not affecting people and it doesn't affect me. The way I put my hands on hobbies and things, they don't come back and slap me in the face. They can if I mistreat them. I need to be practical and logical. But when it comes to people, they're their own people just like I am. I need to live by the golden rule when it comes to people, which means I don't bend people to be my slave. I don't get annoyed when they don't do everything I want, because if I met myself a couple of years ago, I would be annoyed with myself. I'd need to bend myself to be who I want myself to be today as well. So have a loose grip and try and switch this off as much as possible with people, and then give yourself permission to switch it on again when you're dealing with stuff. End of rant. Anyway, any final questions? Any final super chats before we call it a day, people? We've been going for nearly an hour and a half. Let's wrap it up. I love this mic. I always come back to this. I try a few, but I think my favorite, and it's not my most expensive mic either, is this Samson Q9U. I just like the way it sounds in my voice. I think who was it? I think it was James von Maxwell, Hamster. I think he said he bought a what was it? Shure SM7B on my recommendation. I don't have a Shure SM7B, but I can't remember. Like, it is a good microphone. Anyway, I'm thinking out loud. All right, guys, hit the likes, hit subscribe, join any tier you want, and comment in the comments section. I really love the comments that have been coming in the last couple of videos. I love the way that I'll talk about something and then people have got their own experiences, and a lot of them I wish, like, some of you guys should start your own channels, because you've got really really good ideas. But I'm happy to, like a few today, really good ones, spotlighting them on streams and on the channel itself. So have a good day, everyone. Have a good weekend. It's Sunday here. For you guys who have a microphone, feel free to jump on Discord. Link in the comment section below or in the about section on my channel, and talk with a bunch of guys. What's the time now? I have to be somewhere, so I don't think I'll be able to pop in, but you're all free to jump on Discord if you have a microphone and talk amongst each other, and I pop in every now and then. It's open 24/7, so you can always go there and have a chat if anyone's there, or jump in one of the chats, hang out and wait for people to join and have conversations. Be civil, be polite, and yeah, like, subscribe, join, and I'll catch you in the next video, guys. Have a good weekend, and remember, aren't relationships supposed to be fun? Simple questions give you simple clarifying answers that point you in the right direction. Anyway, guys, have a good weekend. Bye.